Hi everyone, my name is Garcia, and so while I've been at CESTA, this summer I've been working on four different projects. The first being the Archaeology of Place in Ancient Cyprus, the second being CESTA Communications, the third being Imagine San Francisco, and the fourth being the Grand Tour project. So I'm just kind of going to explain each of those as quickly as possible in 20 minutes. So just kind of go right on through. So one of the first projects that I was working on this summer was the Archaeology of Place in Ancient Cyprus with Stuart Dunn, who's a digital humanities researcher and specialist in Bronze Age archaeology at King's College London. And the project I was working on here at CESTA was actually one that had its origins in another digital humanities project that Stuart was working on, which was the Heritage Gazetteer of Cyprus, which is right there. And while though they're both similar in that they were working on ancient Cyprus, the Heritage Gazetteer was concerned with place names and how their spelling and language changed and evolved over time, while this project here at CESTA that I've been working on predominantly focuses on mapping sites to particularly ancient or prehistoric sites and features whose contemporary names cannot be known and whose spatial configuration is kind of uncertain, which is to say that spatial configuration is uncertain because our source material isn't very exact, particularly because of the source we don't have. The goal of this project is to create a database which can represent separate archaeology of the prehistoric period before any contemporary place name documentation. So starting within published material, this project seeks to understand how we can define prehistoric sites and features in objective and computable terms, and how different units of archaeology can be represented at different scales. And through this kind of examination of prehistoric space, there come broader overarching questions. For example, how do the areas that various prehistoric sites occupy physically on the Earth's surface relate to more recent place name structures? For example, what space does the ancient city Salamis occupy, and is it the same space that the current city of Salamis in Cyprus occupies? And further, what strategies can we use to grow this data set in the future beyond the corpus of material that we are working with that's currently available in print? So to delve into my particular part in this project, so while those are the broader and larger aims and questions of this Ancient Cyprus project, my job was a bit narrower. As a classical major with a background in Latin and Greek, my primary goal was to help Professor Dunn create a database of source material of Cyprus from antiquity. So from the entire corpus of ancient literature, we decided it might be best to kind of zone in on a few authors. So the three authors that I worked with in particular were Plinius, Pliny the Elder, and Strabo. And so basically my job was to compile relevant textual information from those three authors, translate these texts into English from the original, and highlight helpful keywords and phrases such as place names and references to sites and features. So here is an example of, or a screenshot of the document that I've been working on compiling this database with the ancient Greek source material from Strabo's geography, and kind of bringing to the eye the particular parts of the text that are particularly relevant as they relate to Cyprus, as well as keywords. And so because we're focused on sites and features, some of the keywords include not just place names, but also, for example, here in the text, two islands highlighted, Nicaea, Duo, and the Greek, because we are focused on what those features might have looked like and how they might have changed over time. So as well as that information being within this database, there are also links to another free open access digital humanities project called the Proceeds Digital Library, which I have a screenshot of. It's the same text right there. And it's hosted by Tufts University, which is the largest online database of Greek and Latin material on the web. So each link goes directly to that specific section of the text. And on the proceed site, one has access to a word-for-word parser, relevant textual information and commentaries, as well as English translations that are probably, arguably better than mine, as like published translations. As this project is still kind of in a nascent research stage, most of what I've been working on with this project has been sifting through source material, translating, tagging passages and keywords. But in regards to next steps for this project, the hope is to turn this material into quantitative data. For example, tagging these prehistoric sites with GPS coordinates and thereby attempting to visualize routes between places described in the text, or even kind of make an attempt at, by analyzing narrative sequences of the text to visualize the order in which these places appear within the narrative. So that's one of the projects that I was working on this summer. The second is CESTA Communications. So this was particularly about maintaining a social presence for the center, the CESTA online, through our Facebook and Twitter accounts, and connecting to the digital humanities community at large, which surprisingly has a very strong, significant online presence. I learned and it was really kind of a joy to work on this project, to be on social media and interacting with people, and that was my job, so that was really cool. But one of the things that I was focused on also was updating the ethos of our social media. So before I kind of came into that position and that responsibility, we hadn't had as much of a particularly like a Twitter presence, and the presence that we did have was kind of maintaining or showing the outside world a lot of the things that are going on in this office, which is absolutely important in showing off the material and kind of presenting all of the work that we do here at Stanford. But also, one of the things that I revamped in our Twitter communications was adding things like, I noticed that we had a lot of PhDs and the postdocs that were following our Twitter account, and that was a very predominant following that we had. And so one of the things that I was interested in was posting talks about postdoctoral positions, or posting assistant professor positions. And those were actually getting a lot of favorites and retweets, and people those were kind of gaining traction. And I think that the community is very appreciative about those things. And one of the things that I was also pleasantly surprised about in this position in particular was using social media and seeing social media as part of the digital humanities toolkit. I think a lot of people think, when they think of digital humanities, they kind of have an understanding of what digital humanities is. They think of coding, and they think of GIS kind of information and toolkits. And I think that there's a really great series of articles in the LA Review of Books currently called The Digital and the Humanities, and a lot of what they talk about, or a lot of what some of those digital humanities people have been talking about, is using how they use their online social media presence as part of the digital humanities toolkit. And I think that's a really important reminder kind of for this community, particularly because this is sometimes a community that exists within the ivory tower, and I think that it's important that we are critical about how we use free open access materials and how we can use those materials to get information out to the community at large, not just the community here in CESTA or even here at Stanford, but the global community that we're in digital humanities. So a project that I'm currently working on, the other major projects I was on were part of my responsibility for the first project that I've been here. And we've done two other projects. One of them being in San Francisco, and I'm working with Ocean Howell, who is a researcher and professor at the University of Oregon. This project traces the history of urban planning in San Francisco, with a particular focus on unrealized schemes of the city. So in analyzing historical plans, maps, architectural renderings of the city, and photographs, this project seeks to show what must have been like, as well as to show the city's transformation in terms of material changes, and to more deeply expose the complex negotiation of political power within that are underlaid within different plans of the city that have like since been unrealized. An anecdote and an example of what that research means. One of the maps that is presented here, the 1905 Burnham Plan, is one that Professor Hall has been investigating. It was an inadequate version, partly because it was unrealistic. It would have cost $5 million to make up an image, which would be equivalent in 1995, which would have been the equivalent of $1.2 billion today. But after the 1906 earthquake, it was also unrealistic because with its focus on green spaces and wide boulevards, the plan, as well as its possible and Beaux-Arts influences, the plan focused less on housing and urban development and more on city beautification. Yet this plan largely has influenced the unrealized 1948 San Francisco highway plan, most notably with this large road along Mission. Here in the 1905 Burnham plan, it would have been this like kind of wide boulevard in the Parisian style. This plan this 1905 Burnham plan had influenced the 1948 San Francisco highway plan, which was also unrealized. But that 1948 highway plan also used a lot of these boulevards as highway ramps and different ways of transportation, even now in the current plan of San Francisco. The SF median portions of BART lines also cut through this exact same area. And coincidentally, these visualizations line up to urban, less developed, poorer neighborhoods in San Francisco. So you see like this kind of trend of focus on making these most implications of the city are next to communities that are disenfranchised. And it's something that we see in a lot of these plans. So that's like one example of like the kind of work that Ocean's project seeks to do with the map in San Francisco. But my work on this plan, or on this project, has been working on visualizations of, has been, the eventual goal of the plan is, of the project is to make web visualizations of these maps and to kind of put them on the internet. And so I've been predominantly working on making mock-ups. I don't really have a particular knack for web design or CSS or any kind of coding languages, so these have been made up on Peanut, but the idea is to kind of envision what a website like this would look like and kind of like go through the process with Professor Howell of what, if we were to turn this into a website, like what kind of design we want to use, what this website would actually look like. And so here's an example. Up here are different organizations that have commissioned maps, so bankers, federal organizations, civic groups, and commerce. And then the idea would be to have a number of maps in chronological order on the top of the website. You'd be able to pull up a map and pinpoint different features that you would like to see. You'd also be able to overlay maps, which is something that Professor Howell is really interested in doing. So the idea being that you can, you might have like the current plan of San Francisco, and on top of that, you can overlay different maps to kind of see the ways in which unrealized maps differ from the current plan of San Francisco. So this is just an example of like what a website like that would look like. My last and final project that I'm currently working on is the Grand Tour project under the direction of Giovanna Cesaroni here in the Stanford Process Department. So for those who aren't familiar with the phenomenon, the Grand Tour refers to the traditional tour of Europe. So in particular, the tour of Italy undertaken typically by the upper elite European young men who came from wealth, although there are instances of men who, of course, like come from humble origins who are sponsored to go on these trips. This was an incredibly important practice in Europe in the 18th century, and it was a custom often seen as a traditional and or educational rite of passage by the elite. And it's had a long-lasting effect on the present day. Though such trips were formative and in the institution of modernity, and these trips have contributed to the reimagining of politics, of the arts, and the humanities. They've kind of were formative to our current ideas of the market for and consumption of culture, as well as contemporary ideas about future. The project in particular is concerned with the more than 5,000 travel entries in John Ingemel's Dictionary of British and Irish Travelers to Italy, for which the project aims to create a searchable database and visualization of the travelers' journeys and lives. So in transforming Ingemel's work onto a digital format, the project seeks to provide a more manageable way to extract and utilize information or utilize the data from this work. Additionally, by transferring this work onto a database such as the one we currently have, of that database, the Grand Tour Explorer, you'd be able to kind of have initiatives like an Explorer, and then where you'd be able to pick out various travelers by occupation or by birth or death dates or by where they traveled to. And that one example is an entry. We hope that by kind of making this visualization, that the work can become more malleable and easier to analyze. So, for example, with the visualizations of the Grand Tour Explorer site, patterns can become more apparent when a researcher, for example, could easily compile data on who was in Florence between 1770 and 71, and different networks can be drawn based on who was where at what time. And so that's kind of the work that Outlaunch the project is focused on. My work from this project has mostly been looking at this for 6 hours a day. The most of the data has been added to the Grand Tour Explorer site. There were several errors and idiosyncratic instances and nuances that were not caught by the computer program, and so my responsibility has been to sift through each entry, fixing parsing mistakes, editing tours and travel destinations that might contain missing or deleted information, and by enriching the journeys by reading through narratives contained in each dictionary entry. And conceptualizing it as one of the joys behind this project for me has been receiving the opportunity to reconstruct the lives of these travelers in this kind of meticulous sifting through rows and columns. The reason that many of these entries are so lengthy and detailed is because many of the people who conducted these grand tours have kept detailed diaries and entries and journal entries. So it's really exciting finding human elements within the figures. So sometimes these human elements are necessary to engage with on a pragmatic or practical level as it concerns the project. For example, one entry in particular, 4832 John Tran, who traveled with another entry, 1868 John Fuller, the two traveled to Naples in January of 1766. But quickly in March, climbed Mount Vesuvius, where at which point John Fuller suffered a contusion on his leg, which isn't a travel destination found in the travel entry of the section and can only be found by reading the narrative. And so pulling out that information and adding it into our database is important so that it can appear on the website and show that they were in Vesuvius in March of 1766. And that's like important in terms of just getting like correct and accurate and significant data. But other times the human element simply enriches the work I'm doing. And it just reminds me of the personal quality of the data report I'm doing, which is like really interesting in finding the human and the humanities in the digital. And so it's been a really exciting kind of project of mine, even though I'm sifting through spreadsheets. So those have been all my projects, and thank you for your time.
Well, thank you for a great overview. Do we have any questions on any one of the 4 projects that Kevin was working on this?
Now, I have a question. Can you give an example of sentimentalizing the data?
I'm sorry, what?
Can you give an example of your sentimentalizing the data?
Yeah, well, it's been just kind of really fascinating having like going through and reading each entry. There is one that I was particularly interested in. Entry 5,264, which is getting really into it. Yeah. But Giustiana Wynn, who was born in Venice during her father's 3rd tour of Italy. He went on this tour after his wife died in England, and so he traveled to Venice, met a Greek woman, and they had a Giussiana blood block. She was born and raised in Venice, and became the lover of who is notorious for his love affairs. So that's really interesting. Like, kind of these bits of we see qualities within Cyprus. Yeah.
Have you did any of the work on the individual projects, cross projects, that is to say, did the work that you were doing bring things to the other projects, or did you really compartmentalize them?
I would like to say yes. I can't think of anything immediate except kind of like, I mean, I guess that idea of like, maybe that's just my own affect of like coming into each particular project, but this idea of like sentimentalizing the data has been like a theme throughout my 10 weeks here and throughout each project, and even like coming through ancient textual sources has been such a treat, and finding, and also those kind of more grand tours, you know, like Draco traveling through the rest of Greece, or Pliny the Elder, who was a Roman and made his way through to Cyprus, and been like such a joy and kind of a pleasure finding these like human qualities. So I guess that would be.
Yeah, in case you guys didn't catch it, he was translating ancient Greek. So I couldn't find that amazing. What other ancient languages do you know? Or is it French?
Four or five.
4 or 5. Yeah, just a few ancient languages.
Well, I know where some of them crossed over. I was super impressed by all of your finding the human in the digital humanities, including something that's near and dear to my heart. That's the social aspect. I just wanted to tell you that I was in the International Beach Conference in Poland this summer, and I saw your tweets. And the whole world saw them. And Twitter in particular is super important in the digital humanities community worldwide. So I should turn this into a question. That's right. It's not obvious to everyone.
Any other questions?
Well, I did have one that ties to that, because I was going to ask you, when you were managing the broadcasting of Facebook and Twitter, what's just your takeaway of like who is using Facebook versus Twitter? And we've only spoken of like your experience. You were inside an academic conference and it was Twitter, but you said something else academic, not Facebook. So what's your just takeaway of the two different social medias and how it?
Yeah, no,
They flow in and out of CESTA.
that's a really great question. I think that our Facebook kind of world and online presence there is a bit smaller, just in terms of like the kind of like traction that we get and the views and then the kind of community that's been built on there. I think that, and not mainly I think because it's mostly like Stanford professors and affiliates and the Stanford community on that social media application, but on the Twitter sphere, I think there's a broader, larger engaged community, which so I think that was kind of more meaningful or more exciting to kind of like share on, because on Twitter you found DH professors and postdocs and grad students, but there were also a lot of DH enthusiasts and people who might not have access to that university setting, who are still have like a lot of interest and excitement in the DH field, and so there's a lot more access on Twitter, and the community is like really accepting and like growing and really exciting, and so you can really be anyone on the Twitterverse and kind of get involved in that community.